Hi, Tohid bhai, কি অবস্থা?
Hello, boys.
We
How
should
are you
have talked
doing?
in Bangla today because we have our guest Casey Reese with us. So, hi Casey, how are
Hi
you
there.
doing?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on today.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So we're gonna talk about this book. Can you recite the book name, Shakil?
Yes, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff.
Okay. The name says itself a lot. Mrs. Zuboff is a Harvard professor. She writes a book on the surveillance capitalism and how the present capitalism is turned into the surveillance capitalism. So, what is the basic concept of the surveillance capitalism? He starts with the idea that we are having a system, or we had a system that's called capitalism, proper capitalism, that we had labor, we had investment, and we had wealth to generate. But from that system, what was the capitalist system actually based on? The capitalistic system based on that someone will invest money and they will employ people and wealth, and they will have some extra income on that investment and the labor of the people, and that's called profit. That's very easy to understand. And just because they will have profit, that's why they invest and they thrive and they earn more money. And that's the basic of the capitalism, orthodox capitalism, that we have been practicing for last 200 years or more than that, or more specifically the new liberal economic system that we are experiencing last 60-70 years. So her proposal is that surveillance capitalism is a capitalism system that is a little bit away from the present capitalism system. It's no more invest money or wealth on the people, rather than it offers some service, and on the basis of service we give them, or they collect some of the data or the information, maybe directly proposing that they need our data to get our service, or somehow they will give some service, but they will take a lot of data. But most of the data that is not actually related to the service itself. So what they are going to do with that extra data, that is called their surplus or their profit. They will run their business on that extra surplus data. So she defined this idea is the behavioral surplus. So the surplus we got from the regular business, that's capitalism. The surplus we now get from that surplus data and information, and we run on business on that. That's called surveillance capitalism. That's the basic concept. So right at this moment, you have already mentioned that some of the biggest company, starting from Google, Yahoo, the Apple, and the Facebook, and all the mega Silicon Valley based companies extracting a lot of data, and based on those data they are manufacturing their products, they are selling our data to ourselves, they're designing the marketing system, they're designing the advertise system, so that they can extract our valuable information and they can also make money out of that system. That's the basic idea of this book. So if on that ground you can start, Shakil, and then I will ask some question to Casey Reese about his experience there about this system. I have already some primary discussion about that beforehand. So this time, Shakil.
Thank you so much, bhai, for nice introduction. I would directly go straight to the book. I'm going to explain certain concepts which is, to my opinion, are new. So I studied capitalism, I studied economics, but there are some concepts here that people need to understand actually what this author is worried about. So if anyone reads this book, the first idea that the reader will get, which I got, is that there's something going on which is with or without our consent or our awareness, that being used to control us. So that is her fear, and we need to come up with tools and techniques how we can prevent that. So she starts with this idea that surveillance capitalism. So in normal traditional capitalism, you have a business where you put your capital and labor. Using these two, you get a product. And according to the idea of Adam Smith, that each and every business organization should not possess complete information. There cannot be any monopolies. There cannot be any extractive institutions. Everyone will have equal rights to business. They will be able to come. There will be creative destruction happening when new technologies come, and that will replace the old technologies. So that was capitalism, idea of capitalism, and America has run until 2000 on these capitalism ideas. United States has got cheaper goods, development, and people literally enjoyed the freedom of life. Now, surveillance capitalism, this is a rogue form of capitalism where you do not have labor or capital in that traditional sense. They have people working for them, but not in this input of production. What they have in surveillance capitalism is free raw materials. What is the free raw materials in surveillance capitalism? Is our experience, like human experience. So what this form of capitalism is doing, that the business organization in this surveillance capitalism are taking all the human experience from the web, from the environment, from the network, from our society using, let's say, using different services like Google Maps, using services like email, using services like giving you Home Nest. There are services like TV, there are like cameras. So all of these little points where we share how our life is, how we think, they take this, they remove this identification number, like they will not know that whose behavior is this. So they take all the information, they make it impersonal, but through using this machine analytics and machine learning, I convert all of this information that I'm getting to a prediction. And then I'm selling this prediction to whoever is giving me money for. So how did that? So that is what is surveillance capitalism. So in this way, we are getting these free raw materials from human experience, and then we are selling it for something. So they do not have practically, because they're not paying us for any our experience. They're not paying us for our input. They are just getting the information, and they are considering that as their proprietary asset. That this is our asset, and they're selling it to the people. So they're earning money from them. And the writer literally said this is a threat to humanity. We're going to lose our humanity if this continues. So that's the first idea of surveillance capitalism. What is a behavioral surplus? The free raw material. Like we are using email or Gmail, and then we're sending information. After the function, the way we are communicating, now Google is going and reading our emails. I got surprised first time when I saw that Google is giving me notification, hey, you have a flight to catch. Hey, I didn't tell Google, but it went, saw my ticket, find out the time, and gave the notification. Yes, that was a good or bad experience. I was spooked, but that was an experience. So who gave the permission Google to read my email? So that's the idea here. That yeah, you are getting a service, but Google is getting these surpluses, this more information from you with or without your consent. So that is behavioral surplus, which is the raw material of the surveillance capitalism. Then another process is like what do they do? How do they do? This is called a rendition, the experience to data. So they all get this data from different perspective, and then they use machine learning. They're using different points of like your location, your activity, then connecting this location and activity to a certain thing that if someone is in that location, then he's going to, like if someone is in the beach, he's going to want a ice cream in the hot summer beach. So you need to go and sell ice cream to this person. So that's the experience, that's the rendition that people give these ideas to other people, marketers, and they are using this to influence our behaviors. Then future markets, then you have this big other instrumentarian power that by which companies are literally changing humans' behavior by using this kind of machine intelligence. And the last thing here, I would say, to summarize all of these, that let's consider the whole economy as an evolving factory. So our life, if it's a factory, and our life, let's say, if we compare that as a tropical rainforest, our daily life, then our human experience would be that. And surveillance capitalism send robots in our life, gets all this information, and then feeds into a machine learning or AI, and then brings this prediction, and then it sells to other people. And it seems like something genius or innovative, but in a way, it is actually reducing our decision power. That's the introduction. Tohid bhai.
Okay,
please.
Good. So, Casey, you are a tax attorney, so you have a very good idea about the present foundational economic status of the different layer of people in the United States. If you think about the surveillance capitalism, who are actually getting the benefit out of this system? You already said that very few, like if you say the handful, around 10 big giant company based on Silicon Valley, they accumulated so much wealth, like Google, the Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, and many other companies like this. They are actually accumulated already, Shakil said, 50% of the US stock market. They are holding 50% of the stock market. And they are the system, they're running on the system that they are more prone to utilizing the AI or the machine learning or robot or something like that, where the less human interaction is needed and human resource is less resource there. So where is the problem? If you go by the regular capitalistic tax system, that what people does, they accumulate wealth and they make profit from the system, and then government tax them, okay? And then some people get salary from them, and those people also get taxed from their salary. But in this system, if you don't invest more money for the human resources, rather than if you divert that amount of money for installing more powerful AI system or the machine or the instrument, then that amount of investment will considered as a capital investment, which is not even taxable. And that's how they are also evening huge amount of tax throughout the system. So it's actually creating a serious level of economic inequality even in your country. And there are some hue and cry I found in different kind of newspaper if I deeply dive into the system. So what's your perspective on this idea that evading tax system and inequality and the contribution of surveillance capitalism in that idea?
Yeah, so I'll just start by saying this. I am a tax attorney, right? And I do work for the state of Wisconsin. I have to give this disclaimer, right? The ideas are my own. They do not represent the state of Wisconsin in any way. Given that qualification, I'm happy to talk about my personal opinions on this subject. Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing here, right? I mean, in a certain extent, we're still a country of goods. Like, we still have manufacturing, right? But the big companies here, like, where are they making their money? It's on our data, our information. Am I getting paid for this? No, right? In fact, I'm paying for it, right? Well, I don't really pay for Google personally, but in a certain way I am, because in order to make these services work, it's about data collection. They're getting information from me. They're selling it amongst themselves, and they're providing better services, which in some ways I do pay for. In terms of a tax concept, I'm not really going to get into that, but what we're seeing is, you are right. In the last few years, decade, wealth inequality is massive, right? Because you have these titans of technology accumulating massive amounts of wealth, and for the everyday person, do we really understand how these systems work? I'd argue no, right? Even the most educated among us, right? Do I fully understand how these systems work? No, I don't, right? But yet they're so integrated in our lives, in our TV and ordering food, in my Alexa I have, right? We have all these Internet of Things in our homes that we don't really understand how it works. But I think what people do understand is it is our information that's being used in some way. But we don't have a look behind that curtain. And what are the consequences of that? I don't really know quite yet. But what we do know is that there is a disconnect between these elite industry members and the everyday on-the-ground people who are going about their lives and don't really have a say in these fundamental questions of privacy and data use. And these are, it's with us, right? This is an issue that we need to be thinking about and figure out, does there need to be some sort of regulation? If so, what does that look like? So I'll say that as a starting point. So if you want to drill down additional questions, happy to provide insight.
If we deep dive into what actually this system runs on and how does this system runs actually. So if you get the idea that what this ubiquitous system does, they track our information via different apps, sensor, voice, facial recognition. Often with consent, we agree on the terms and conditions. They will take our photo, they will take our call voice record, they will take idea where we are, what's our location, and even they will recognize our emotion, and they will also gather the idea who I talk with Casey, I talk with Shakil. They know what actually my life is. And then what they do, they predict. The machine intelligence then builds a model. Then they forecast on that model where I may go for taking my dinner, or how actually I'm feeling right at the moment, and which music is more suitable to sell to me. Or even if they can pack all this information and sell to undemocratic or Republican or A or B or XYZ party, they can pack all the information and sell them. And that party may utilize all this information and manipulate us. And that's not a prediction. They are already doing these things.
I think
And what?
I've got a
Yeah.
good real world example of why that something like this matters.
Yeah.
I don't know if either one of you have heard of the Madison Square Garden incident related to attorneys a couple years ago.
I heard it.
But
Go
the
ahead.
point of this is, so Madison Square Garden is a big venue, right? Concerts, sporting events, whatever. People love to go there, take their
UFC
partners or
boxing.
wives.
Right?
Yeah, exactly, right? But people love to go attend events there. And to summarize the story, a couple years ago, there was a law firm who was involved in litigation. They were suing Madison Square Garden for one thing or another, right? And the attorneys at the firm that was suing Madison Square Garden allegedly showed up to attend the event, were waiting in the ticket line, ready to go into the doors, and then they were pulled aside by security and told, yeah, you can't attend this event. You're not allowed here. You're trespassing. Go away. And the full context here is eventually it was found out that the surveillance system, the security system of Madison Square Garden was using artificial intelligence to facially recognize the people in the crowd, right? And they somehow got this information, whether it was on the firm's website or some other way that we don't know, to identify the attorneys waiting in the crowd of the other side so that they could just kick them out, right? So they used this in a very nefarious way. They fed the data in, they identified the attorneys, and they kicked them out, right? So it is a real world thing where there are adverse consequences to this sort of system of profiling people. This is a very specific thing, but if it's happening there, where else is it happening? And this is a very obvious story, but there are other ways where maybe it's not so obvious. It's more subtle, right? Are they profiling racial groups or genders? And how are they targeting people in maybe a discriminatory way? I don't know if we actually have all these answers. In fact, I know we don't have these answers as to how certain companies, whether it's the titans or the people who are purchasing the information, are using this data.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
good.
actually answers. So I was having this idea when I was reading this. I am a technological person. I love Gmail. I love Google. I love Google Maps. I love to use all the technologies. I have so many Google Nest devices at my home, Alexas. So when I was reading this book, I was trying to find out one answer to the question, how does this surveillance capitalism is fundamentally challenging our individual autonomy and our democratic societal rights. So there are two things here. First, this individual autonomy, and the second is this democratic societal rights. There are two ways they are destroying our individual economy from this book that I understood. And this book really illustrates this point, that how we are losing our individual autonomy. So first thing that they're doing, they are expropriating our decision rights and freedom of will. How are they doing it? So they're using your individual decision right to predict someone else's decision rights. So literally when you are doing this and you have an idea that I'm going to buy something, and at that particular moment of time, somebody comes with this barrage of products, okay, this is a good product to go. So then you are automatically biased of availability because that information is right in front of you. So the technology is not letting you decide on yourself. The technology is not letting you to compare alternatives, because that is the moment you are trying to buy something and that brand is available in front of your eyes and you're going to buy it. That's the first thing. This usurpation of decision rights from people. Another way that they're expropriating is this annihilation of contract. So by that they mean all this agree that we sign every document. No one knows what is in those contracts.
I'm sure
No one has any idea.
Casey created a lot of this kind of contract as a lawyer.
Yeah, I've actually
Terms
written
and
some of
conditions.
these internet contracts, and yeah.
I got a very interesting, funny idea
Please
that
give
I-
us some cookies or breadcrumbs of this of this contract. So can you give us some ideas how these contracts are made?
I got an
in
example
digital.
from this book that every year we agree on the terms and condition, the amount of terms and condition. If we really want to read all these terms and condition, it will take 24/7 for 173 days per year. Oh,
Yep.
that's a terms and
That's the
condition. Shakil, go ahead.
So here's the insight, right? It's you have an attorney at some point that drafted a contract. It was circulated. Other attorneys have added to it. And these companies existed for a very long time. And so at this point, it's like you have the 100th iteration of the contract that is, if you printed it out, is probably 2,000 pages long. And, you know, there's some sort of event. Somebody got sued at some point. They're like, oh, we need this new clause in there. So they just go ahead and throw it in there. Does anybody actually read these contracts? The answer is no. I mean, well, very few, right? I've read some of them. But is that agreement? I mean, are you actually accepting something if you don't actually read it? Is there an offer? Is there acceptance? Is there consideration? Have you considered it? I'd argue no. But the reality is, the current case law is that these are binding contracts, right? They do matter. So yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting point of the law is these internet contracts.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, so what this idea is doing, surveillance capitalism, it's literally eliminating any future tense. Literally eliminating any future tense, because you would not, previously it was an uncertainty that something will happen in the future or not. It might happen or not. But what these companies are trying to doing, I give you 95% probability, certainty that this event will happen. So you are literally removing every future tense, every uncertainty you're trying to. So previously it was, let's say, we hated totalitarianism, like people would come, would grab your property and your mind, your idealism. What these companies are doing, they're also taking your imagination, like away from you. So this is how they are expropriating the decision right and freedom of will. The second thing that they're doing is by how they're reserving is this erosion of sanctuary and privacy. Like there is no online place that you can just talk and your talk will be only to yourself. No, this talk will go somewhere. You will have no idea when I am talking in a safe space with Tawhid and Casey, and my thing will be recorded and publicized all over the world. Facebook is trying to do it. Apple is somewhat trying to prevent it from doing it by giving this agree not agree button. But what is happening? We are literally giving away this safe space of talking, our privacy and everything like that. So in this two-way, they are taking away our individual autonomy. The second thing is this democratic societal rights. What they're doing, how it's not being democratic anymore, they are literally privatizing this entire thingy, like this surveillance capitalism, this idea that people, like human knowledge, common knowledge, they're privatizing it. Like only Google can use it. No one else can, because Google has collected and perfected it, though it is somebody else's information. So they are taking it away from other people. Like they are creating this asymmetry of information, like something that they know about myself more than myself. Like that's the idea here. So when they know more about you than you know about yourself, then they can change your democratic power. They can decide the democratic decision, which Tawhid was talking about in our Machinocracy episode, that they're already taking the decision on behalf of you. So that's why how they are doing this they are now taking away our societal rights. And the most dangerous part is they are evading the law. They are evading the democracy when it comes to these questions with some ideas. First idea is this illusion of inevitability. So what they're trying to say, yes, technology is here. Yes, they're collecting information and this is going to happen, whether you want it or not, whether Google does it or somebody else does it. So this is a psychological mechanism. Literally, they have created this mechanism, according to the author, by which they're giving these perceptions to normal people that this usurpation of individual rights, this data collection, this erosion of private privacy and individual autonomy is inevitable. Like there will always be technology and you will always be surveilled and your information will always be out there. So now when I ask this question, literally I was asking my wife, my sister, after reading this book, do you feel in that way? They do not. Like literally they say, no, I love Gmail. It's okay. There is some information outside. So they already got this brainwashing mechanism. Like this is inevitable. This is going to happen. So what can we do about it? But according to the author, we can do things about it. So this is how I would explain this surveillance capitalism is destroying the future for us, if I want to talk about the author. But so that is the fundamental question that this book answers, that how surveillance capitalism is bad for individual autonomy and democratic societal rights. Tawhid bhai.
Okay. The basic idea of this surveillance capital has a historical point of perspective. Look, I'm not talking about the history of the colonist country, the colony itself, like India or Africa. But if you think about the change in the political sphere of Europe, say about Italy, the time around 1920s, 30s, and 40s, you talk about the Germany, and you can talk about the Russia. At the time, before that, there was a kind of monarchy system, empire system. People were under that empire or monarchy. They were kind of a little bit of quasi-extractive system that people have to pay some tax or something to the king and someone like that. And they turn into something kind of semi-democratic at the time. So what is the transition? Transition is that when the system, the semi-monarchy, semi-democracy into the total control under the Mussolini in Italy, in the Germany under Hitler, and the Stalin took over the Russia or the USSR. So they didn't keep the previous ideas. They took over the whole country. They employed a lot of people to just watch the citizens. And if they found anything that actually betrays their philosophy, they were caught and they were sent to jail and they killed. They annihilated from the system. That was their style of governance at that time. Say about the Stalinism, if you look into the history, you'll find that already they killed 1 million people in 38 and 37, 1937, 38 at the time. And they deported so many people in the cold areas of the Russia or the Soviet Union. So they were very heavy on the people just practicing superlative level of human surveillance. They employed spy, the investigative people, different tier of intelligence, what they're talking inside the home, and what they're talking with their colleagues. And if they found something fishy, they were seriously heavy on them, and so that they can continue their power. So the writer, Mrs. Zuboff, she's also giving a comparison between that absolute takeover of that totalitarianism and the absolutism at the time with the takeover of these Silicon Valley giants right at this moment over the total economic system of the modern world. Especially she was talking about the US at the time. So if you talk about US, you have to actually talking about whole world. The system actually spreads all over the world. So she is giving the idea that at the same way, the way they did it at previous time, the same way they are gonna do it right at this moment. They are taking over all over the system, and they will punish you if you just behave in a different way. Punishment may not be like sending into the jail, but there are so many disincentives and like if they disassociate you from the system or the reverse, then you will feel the punishment. And the same concept goes by if you read books of the George Orwell's 1984. She was like giving a model of this kind of super surveillance system that is actually happening right at this moment. Even if you talk about the philosopher Jeremy Bentham, she was referring philosopher Jeremy Bentham. She was thinking about a jail system that will actually keep surveillance all over the people, and they will control the system. If you can make the total system as a jail, and then you can easily control them. So same thing is happening right at this moment in the country. On the other side, the economic perspective that I'm talking about, you may Casey, you may give a little bit more better idea, because throughout the system, we are talking about that the American system had a very strong value about the community. The university we studied, or the lots of university school, and the religious institutions, the social clubs, and those things are done or established by some of the top wealthy people of early 90s. So you're talking about that. But how do you evaluate the present wealthy people who run on the business on this data extraction and their contribution to the society, both as a product and also the social service? How do you evaluate all those things?
Yeah. So a couple points here. The effect of this data collection, Silicon Valley, the tech industries, like what effect is that having on society? I mean, I think we are more isolated than ever before under the veneer of connection, right? I mean, you watch the Facebook commercials and it's like, we're connecting you, right? It's all about connection.
Yeah.
Have I been to the public library to any events in the last 3 years? No. Has anybody? No. We go into our homes and we've isolated ourselves and have pretended that we're more connected than ever before. We are giving our data away to the tech giants, and you've talked about some of those consequences. And the wealth in America, I mean, it's no secret. The wealthy are getting wealthier, the poor are getting poorer, the gap is growing. And before the conversation today, you and I talked, and we kind of analogized back to the early 1900s, right? I mean, this is not the
Yeah.
first time in America when there has been wealthy elites. You think about the steel industry, the railroad industry, and the titans of industry back in the early 1910s and 20s. But the difference is, growing up in a small rural town, you kind of look around and you see the public library and it has the name of a super wealthy person on there, right? I mean, Vanderbilt University, you name it. Most towns have some sort of building, a school that was funded in large part by a very wealthy individual. Are we seeing that today? I don't think so, right? I don't see Musk University. I don't really see new foundations being laid for a public library in the inner city trying to improve the lives of people. You don't see it. Instead, you just see data extraction, wealth extraction, and again, the everyday person is left out. They're
And $1
left out of the
trillion
decision-making
proposal.
process.
$1 trillion
$1 trillion
remuneration proposal.
pay proposal. Yeah. But again, like, we are supposed to be a community of people. I mean, that's why we have society. We're supposed to look out for each other, not just me and my own. And I think the tale of technology, I mean, that is going to be the story of our century. Of we've become isolated under the veneer of connection. We have sold our very inner thoughts, our data, who we are. We just gave it away. We didn't even sell it, right? And what is the use, right? We talked about China and the social rating system. In China, apparently there's this system where, you get rated on your ideology and whatever to a large degree, a lot of consequences, right? If you have a poor social rating system, are you going to get that apartment you apply for? No. In America, we have something similar. We have a credit score, right? I mean, it's kind of a different system, but are we going down that path where a state actor is going to use your information, rate you, make a decision about you, and are there consequences that follow that? And what I can say is the answer is yes. So in the criminal justice world, there is talk of, can you use this information to find people, to identify a crime before it happens? Right? I mean, can I use your profile and the information I know about you and develop what, probable cause that you're a child molester or something like that, right? And so the answer is, we do know that this information is being used in a lot of different ways in a world where there's big consequences for an individual. And who holds the key? Who is the one making the decision? It is the people who have the data and who are implementing this plan, and it amounts to trust us, right? That's the story. Trust us. We have your best information, or we have your best interest in mind. I look at that with a high degree of suspicion, but maybe, I'll put on my tinfoil hat here, right? Because as you said, you asked your sister and your colleagues, and they're fine with it. And maybe the people who aren't, we're the weird ones.
Exactly. You brought up a really good
Amazing point.
that I was thinking. So in 1900s, we had these robber barons, right? Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, and J.P. Morgan. So they were controlling everything. J.P. Morgan Finance, we have John D. Rockefeller, 90% of Americans' oil. Andrew Carnegie, he controlled the steel. Vanderbilt controlled the railroad. So at that time, they were so much powerful. And we are having a similar situation here, that 7 companies like Microsoft, Meta, they are controlling American economy right now. So if we compare these two Gilded Age, one is the first in 1900s and currently that's going on, I notice some fundamental change here. First thing, in previous time, the government was powerful enough to break them. In 1903, this antitrust law, you must know this. I have read about it, this antitrust law, where John D. Rockefeller was forced to, diversify his business. He broken down his business. Vanderbilt had to do that. Carnegie had to do that. So at that time, the government was in that kind of a situation that people thought government has the best interest for them. They were supporting the government against these big, powerful countries, big, powerful people.
Mm-hmm.
And second thing, the government could do that just because their industries were based on locations. You cannot just take this whole oil, minerals and in this here and take it to in other countries. Like you cannot take this industry, railroad industry, steel industry from one location to another easily. So the government could go to privatize those to public, like to get control of those projects to those big industries and everything. The difference here currently, these new companies, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, this Amazon, Jeff Bezos, they are not bound by location. Their entire business is in cloud. So today, if the United States government says, hey, I want you to be a little bit of respectful about this privacy and try to be more legal, they're going to say, I'm going to move to Malta, I'm going to move to Moldova, I'm going to move to British Cayman Island. Take my entire business with me. Legally, I can do that. You cannot do anything about that. Because there is no physical, tangible asset that you can grab except for this $10 billion head office. But that's not a business. Their business is in the cloud. That's the first thing. Second thing, since these people controls information, these people controls narrative of any information, of any fact, the trust on government is at the lowest level. There is no, people do not trust government. People will always trust now Musk over government because they think Musk is brilliant. He's going to take more initiatives. He's going to bring more money to them. So that's the main two difference, that currently the government will never be able to stop this Gilded Age, this monopolies that is happening. But they could do it in the 1800s. Now, this surveillance capitalism opens up another questions. So I already explained that how the invisible hand concept is being avoided by the surveillance capitalism because they are creating the monopolies. There is no Google. Google is only one. There is no Facebook. Facebook is only one. You cannot create another Facebook. Facebook is just going to buy them. Google is just going to buy them. So what they're trying to create, they're getting away from this traditional capitalism concept. Second thing, they're abandoning reciprocity. By reciprocity here, in the old form of capitalism, what you had, let's say Henry Ford created a car. When he created a cheaper model of car, like from $16,000 to it brought to $2,000 with his belt system, this operational management system, he at first faced problem because no one was buying their car, because even if the price was lower, the demand was not that high. That's when he had to increase the wages of his own factory so that people from his own factory can buy their car. This is called reciprocity. These capitalists, they were forced to give workers benefits, money, so that they can enjoy these products. But in this current system, there is no reciprocity. They're collecting information from us, we are paying for this, as you said. Like, they're not paying us to enjoy this benefit. Nothing is coming towards us. This is where this idea of inequality rises. Like previously, the inequality, even though the Henry Ford was rich, it had to remove the inequality. The free market idealism was working because this reciprocity. Henry Ford needed poor people to have more money to buy his products. But currently, Google doesn't need. If you don't have money, tomorrow you cannot access Google Premium. Like they started these photos. If you remember that you can unlimited take photos and it's going to go and store itself. But now you have to pay for it monthly this month. Otherwise your photo is gone, your limitations and things like that. So we are paying it. And Google is training its AI, like Nano Banana. I do not know whether you've used it or not. Like their image modification tool based on our pictures. Like I'm pretty sure that they have used our pictures in a way, in impersonal way, that no personal identifiable information. They created the machine and now they're selling it to us. Hey, this is a model. You pay and you play with this. So this is what, to me, is destroying. It will destroy if it goes unfettered. And this idea of inevitability that they have given us, in that case, like it is going to happen, whether Google does it or some other company. To me, that is, yes, you can, but that is a psychological trap, in my opinion. Like there is nothing inevitable. We can be the friction. To me, that's the idea. What do you think about that, Casey?
So as you're talking, I agree that, is this a sustainable path that we're on? And we've been talking about the inequality, right? And can that be infinite, right? Can there be infinite inequality? And these systems depend on what? Us paying. Like we said, we're paying for this, right? But what happens when you can't pay for it anymore? What happens when a person can't even afford the basic necessities of life? And I think that we're starting to enter a phase when we're going to be grappling with those questions quite a bit and it's going to force the tech industries to grapple with it too. Can those industries live off of 10 billionaires funding themselves? I don't know. I don't think so, right? Maybe they haven't planned for it, but I mean, before this conversation, we were talking, right? Things are expensive. People are paying half their income for their rent. I go to the grocery store, buy 2 bags of groceries, and it's like $100. I think if you believe in the free market, will there be an adjustment, right? Will the tech industry slow down and recognize that this path is unsustainable? I don't know. But what I do know is that people are struggling. And eventually you're going to get to a point where, I mean, I don't know if you guys play video games or Xbox or anything like that, right? I mean, there's a big controversy of, oh my gosh, the Xbox Game Pass is now $30 a month. I'm canceling it. I can't do that anymore, right? And maybe
I
that
canceled
same...
it. I personally, Xbox, I had this Ultimate, and
Same
I
here.
literally canceled it. I just buy games whenever I want to play them.
I did too, right? And so, I mean, the point of that story is, like, are the tech companies going to start hitting that line where consumers cannot afford it? And so they have to adjust models. And I don't really know where this is going or what answers that will look like, but I think that's a big variable they have to consider is people are getting irritated. I mean, in our last conversation, we talked about New York and that election, right? And the socialist mayor who just got elected. I think the tech industry will have to contend with the people eventually in some way or another. And I don't know what that looks like, whether that's through government intervention or something else. But I think that is going to be a limit at some point.
তৌহিদ ভাই, government
Okay.
is losing power. আপনারা
Okay,
যারা করতেছেন এই যে
yeah.
So,
Actually, I
Tauhid
believe-
bhai,
I
government
believe,
is losing power. I want you to take like what the government can take, and what's your take on this, please?
Okay, I'm absolutely subscribing your idea that government is actually losing power. It's not all about the government. Who actually government? If you say according to democracy, the representative of people is the government, right? So actually, what this extractive surveillance capitalism is doing extracting all the information. So as a person, at the inception of the idea, you are losing your freedom. To whom? Some people who are actually controlling things from some holy place called Silicon Valley. And they are kind of new prophets. And they're holding more power than the medieval prophet who preaches different kind of religions from different regions of the world. They have more subscriber within, like, if you think about the major believer in the major religions, you find that would not be much, that level of that number of subscriber of those religions within like 10-15 years. Right at this moment, these Silicon Valley prophets have right this moment. They have much more influence on people than that those time the prophets had on their disciples. So the shifting is serious. Right at this moment, when we think about history, we actually hate people who took our sovereignty as a colonialist, or who actually exploited us as a feudalist. So what we are actually gonna heading towards? You already mentioned that some wealth are accumulated through the serious level of critical monopoly. So these people you may term as this modern day prophet, but actually they are modern day feudals. They are accumulating all the wealth, and they are actually utilizing our behavior, our movement, our interaction, networking, everything, and they are building their wealthy system. And actually we are at the end losing our sovereignty. When people lose their sovereignty, ultimately the democratic institutions lose your strong grip on the system. That's happening actually. If you think about how they actually can, right at this moment, maybe it's a little bit difficult in America, but in third world countries, Facebook or anything that control the social media has a serious impact. Do you know that there are a lot of issues that happen while there is an ethnic cleansing in the Myanmar? Those people fled in Bangladesh. That was aided by Facebook at the time. Serious number of people were affected by that ethnic cleansing just because at the time the genocide who actually caused this genocide, they actually spread so much derogatory speech, hatred, and videos at the time. And at the time, like in around 15 or 16 at that year, Facebook policy was not even properly formulated how to control this kind of, xenophobic hatred towards the religion and ethnic cleansing and all those issues. That they couldn't do that. And even if you think about right at this moment, almost a serious level of impact is incurred on different democratic institutions. If you look about any election in a third world country, definitely Facebook will play a major role. And there is a possibility that if you can get into those information that your voters had, or your voters have, if you have proper information and data through some system, then you can manipulate them. You can design the social network to other internet services in a way that people will preach to a doctrine. People will get idea and absorb all those ideas, be it positive or negative, but who can actually preach this doctrine and can feed this kind of hatred and negative campaign, people will ultimately subscribe, and they are doing it everywhere around the world. So I am actually also concerned about the present situation of democracy and also the governance. If it is not proper democracy, there will not be proper governance. The governance will also be volatile to the extraction of information and data from inside and outside. And when they are taking anything from us, like we are getting a service from Google or Facebook, like we search something. So there is two layers of this information, that we are putting something that I want to grow from place X to Y. But they are extracting second layer of information. Actually, why I'm going to there? What's my motto? And where I'm stopping actually from place A to X, maybe in Z I'm stopping, giving a stop. And where I'm stopping, I'll take some coffee, or like I will have some food or gas or something like that I record. So they are extracting much more information that actually provide them. So upon those systems, they are actually taking away our individual spontaneity and sovereignty. Actually, what the totalitarian system at 1920s and 30s and 60s took away from the previous system in the Western Europe and throughout the world, they actually took away the spontaneity of the people, the spontaneous individual action of the people, that people can no longer work according to their will. That was done by the Hitler, Stalin, and other Mussolini and other totalitarian government. And right at this moment, who are actually taking away our power? People who are sitting in the Silicon Valley and making big plan to get more data, pretending that they will give us more service. That's my take on this idea of the surveillance capitalism.
I don't know. I'm just going to kind of reinforce a comment I said earlier. If we're talking about techno-feudalism, right? These are our new feudal lords. It goes back to this concept of the king's bargain, right? And what is the king's bargain? Is we're willing to give up our security, our freedom, our privacy, but there has to be something in exchange for it. And usually it's this idea of comfort. It's comfort and security. And we're at a point where, yes, we've given up all this stuff, our information, our data, maybe our freedom and our liberty. But what are we getting in exchange for it? Yes, I'm getting the flashy new toys. I've got my iPad, my Xbox. I love it. I'm very comfortable with it. And for a while there, I didn't really care because I'd come home and play games, and I was very comfortable. But again, I'm going to reinforce that the tech industry, government needs to grapple with what I perceive to be a very real crisis, at least in the United States, and I think maybe in Bangladesh a little bit, we talked about, which is, I don't know if they're living up to their side of the bargain anymore. I think there's a lot of people who are not very comfortable. Again, food, housing, education for our children, healthcare. On a personal level, last week I hit my head and got a concussion, right? Did I go to the doctor? No, I did not. Why did I not go to the doctor? Because I was thinking about my high deductible health plan and how much it was going to cost. So I said, I'll just suffer through the side effects.
Whoa, I'm so sorry hearing that.
It's, it could have been worse, and, other people experience much worse, right? People have cancer or diabetes and they cut their insulin. And so why am I bringing all this stuff up is, again, it goes back to the bargain. And I think there are a lot of people who are getting very disaffected and are very apathetic, and they're starting to feel despair. And they want change, and that's starting to cause a simmering boil. And what does that mean? I mean, historically, it's not a good thing when a mass of the population start feeling that way, and it starts going from a boil to a boil over to action. And that is a fear I have in my head. And I guess I'll say it's violence, right? It's revolution. It's people taking things into their own hands, like gunning down a CEO in the streets of New York. I mean, why does that happen? Because people are upset. And all this talk we have, I mean, that's my main concern on my mind is stability. And I don't want to see a world where we rip ourselves apart and there's blood in the streets, right? But I'll leave it there.
To me,
Okay.
my biggest fear is, which is mentioned by this author, is that we are getting towards a hive mind. Like humans likes to follow. Like people normally, as a human being, we like to follow. We like to create in a society, in a community. This is our thinking, but we always had this diversity in that group. Like, I will do something different from the hive. But what this idea of this surveillance capitalism is doing, they're making this prediction that human society will go in this way. I mean, if they can predict my individual behavior, they can also predict a societal behavior which is consist of individuals like me. So they are creating this societal hive when they can predict what would be the power. So in this book they call it the instrumentarian power. What this will do, which is my biggest point, which Tohid was also talking, it's going to kill the most precious elements of our human nature, which is the will to will. Like, let's say, previously the idea was I'm going to do something, and to do something I have to get this will. But with this hive mind, this Facebook will make myself do something because of not my will, because of the hive mindset. Hey, other people are doing it, you should do it. This fear of missing out, this fear of creating an alternate universe, this fear of giving you this predictability that if you don't do it, then you will be away from your group. If you don't wear this dress, you will not be part of your friend circle. If you do not follow this fashion trend, you will be away from this society. So even it doesn't matter individually whether we like this dress or not, we are going to wear it because Google has said this is the best product. We're going to wear it because Facebook has said this is the trend going on. Instagram has said trend going on. So this, in first hand, destroying our own individual self, we are becoming a hive, like a herd of sheep that the shepherd is, beating to keep us in line. Like all this, digital feudal lords that you're talking about. And we are becoming the herd. We do not have any sense of our own, but we are thinking that we have the sense that we know what we're doing, and we know what we're talking about. So the will to will, this autonomy, this social trust that even if I'm indifferent, that I will have acceptance from the society, they're taking it away. Another thing, these social media and things does, because our human mind is always attracted towards negative things. Like if I draw some wiggly lines in a white paper and I ask any human being, what do you see? No one will say that I see the white space. Even though that white space is 90% of the sheet, they will always say I see the lines, which is 1% of the space. So we as a human always go towards this negative thing, these things which, when it stakes out, previously those were considered as part of human society, but now they are highlighted so much that creates nationwide, like all these things happened, that BLM happened, this white supremacist movement going on right now, this Turning Point USA. This is happening only because of highlighting one or two incidents to the level disproportionate to their effect. And this amplification is done by this kind of surveillance capitalism, this kind of hive mind societal mechanism. So to me, that is the main problem. We have talked about problems. I want to just we are also nearing towards our end. Just if I want to ask, what can we do from our kind of point of view? I will ask first Casey, and then I'm going to ask Tohid. What can we do to...
I'll be very quick. I mean, exactly what we're doing right now, right? We're thinking. We're having conversations with friends and colleagues. And you talk about the hive mind. I mean, that requires giving up your mind. And so I think exactly what we're doing in this space, I think what people do around the dinner table is you have conversations, you think about these issues, you do the best you can with whatever resources and means you have available to try to inform yourself, whatever that looks like. But just think, develop your own thoughts. And even in having these conversations, you develop your own thoughts. So I think that is critically important. And I look forward to hopefully keep doing that with the two of you.
Okay, thank you. Shakil, if you have any suggestion regarding this, then I'll
To me,
continue.
I just want to highlight what Casey said. This is the ultimate solution. And
Yeah.
the author also suggested that we have to be the friction that stops the machine, that jams the machine of the surveillance capitalism. We have to create some resistance. We have to get out of this mindset of inevitability, this illusion of inevitability that this is going to happen. No. We can think, we can have our own opinion, we can take the positive, discard the negative according to our own mind and things. And at the end of the day, you, Casey, Tawhid, Shakil, all we want is to have a good society where we can talk without getting killed or with the fear of getting killed in society. So that's the thing. We have to be the friction. Just think before we do anything. Just don't take it as a given. Don't take it as something that is inevitable. People will collect our information and we have to give it to them. No. If we can come up with our solution, we can raise our voices. We have to trust our government. We have to make sure that we vote, we participate in these national decision-making mechanisms, and we make the system robust so that the government also can work on your behalf. You have to get away from this lobbying mechanism that is happening currently, that anytime you need to have passed anything, this Google has spent more money in lobbying than in like any other activities. Like $17 million is like the monthly or budget is for government lobbying to change laws in favor of this surveillance capitalism. So this lobbying side, this everything, we need to be like stopping that. So that would be my thing. With that, I conclude my part for today.
Thank you. So if I want to say my part that Julian Assange, the man who actually worked for the internet freedom, he once said that once you upload something in internet or in phone or in your system, you cannot delete it. And actually it's true that we cannot go back. We upload something, if someone really interested to invade the system and extract those information, maybe a photo, a conversation with our close ones or anything, they can actually retrieve it anytime they want, and they do it when they actually necessitate it. And another important point is that we are saying a lot of bad thing about the current system, about the like Facebook, Google, or the total internet system. But human has created so many things in the history for their own benefit, and that it turned out as a little bit detrimental to them. But there is no way to go back. You cannot erase the banking system from our economy. You cannot go back as world without internet. You cannot go back a society that don't have something like Facebook or Instagram or Google or something like that. You cannot go back. It's the ultimate reality. So in summary, what actually we lost to the system, we lost in individual level, we lost our autonomy and our personal freedom. What we choose, actually someone have guide us through the nudging, and our future, our choice actually determined just because for some commercial gain from some people who actually control the system. And on the other side, if you go down in the political sphere, you'll find that democracy is little bit in threat. Public opinion right now, what we see is kind of engineered through targeting, micro-targeting. Power shifts to the unaccountable, big, monopolistic corporation that we have been talking last 1 hour. And if you see about the social sphere, the gap in the massive knowledge gap between the people and the asymmetry is created. I mean, it's actually leading to a unaccountable feudal ruling class. That those people have more knowledge, more data and information, and they can actually rule us according to their will and their benefit. And ultimately, if you think about the human itself, that we have changed our experience and nature. We don't have any personal life. We call it personal, but it's no more personal. The personal thing is dead. And we actually turned ourselves, or they turned ourselves into a product. We are no more a person, we are a product now itself. So there should be some way out from this trap. So the first step, Casey said properly, that we need to have discussion, opinion, voice, Sometimes we have to write, sometimes we have to arrange procession, we have to cry, and we have to make noise. That's the best thing that we can do right at this moment, so that people actually get acquainted about these ideas that we are no more a human being, we are a product, and someone is controlling us. So when these people get these ideas, they will be a little bit aware about their situation and they can take more action. And another important part is that government has to do something. And there are some instances that government is taking some decision or steps regarding these ideas. First thing first, that if you heard about the Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2018, you'll find that those company was taking a massive data from Facebook and other corporations, and they were using that in terms of voting in 2016 American election, and also they are utilizing that Brexit polling in maybe 2016. So when it got a little bit leaked from inside the CIA agents, then there was a huge hue and cry, and Mr. Zuckerberg was called to the American Congress, and then he was also called in the European court. So in both sides, he got a huge hefty fine. And what actually this means, that if people actually can invade that how they are actually manipulating us, then people can go to court, or people can go to some people or some body that can give them remedy. So our duty is we have to be aware of ourselves, and we have to be organized, and we have to go to the government, and we have to empower government so that they can create some laws, like the European Union has created the Digital Data Security Act in early 2010. So this thing we actually can hope for the future benefit of our society and community. And that's all from my talk. That's a really big book, but we had a very insightful conversation, especially from Casey. He was a busy tax lawyer, but he gave our real insightful ideas in the book and our discussion. He really enriched our discussion. Thank you, Casey, for being with us for last 1 hour. I really appreciate your time and your effort here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shakil.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.